What's up, clones? Cheers, Bloom. Selection Sunday.
We made it.
We made it, baby. What's going on, man? How you doing?
You know, the sun came out this morning, and it was almost 60 degrees in Des Moines, and things are great. Clones are in the tournament.
Clones are in the tournament. A couple of them, baby. Got a packed show for the next hour or so. We are going to have Scott Christopherson, the former Cyclone, joining us. We are going to have Iowa State assistant women's coach Billy Finley, and then Jared Stansberry will stop by. He has been with the Iowa State men's team for the past hour or so, and we'll get all of their reactions. Maddie Van Winkle, say hi to everyone. Matt has done a lot of hard work to produce tonight's program, and he's got a lot of good stuff queued up for us as well. Iowa State will take on LSU in the NCAA tournament. And we just got the tip. Matt's got it on there. 6 o'clock or 6:20. That is Central Time in Milwaukee on Friday night. And Bloom, we're going to hear some reaction from some of the players here coming up. What did your gut reaction say when you saw this draw?
Yeah, I mean, initial, it was, if you're going to be an 11 seed, this is almost the perfect position to be in. And honestly, this draw is a lot easier to make it to the second weekend than it would have been if Iowa State is an 8 seed. Because now you play a good team. I mean, LSU still has talent, right? Let's start there. LSU is a 5-point favorite for a reason on Friday night. They've got a bunch of guys. They had a couple guys that'll play in the NBA. But the major storyline is they don't have a head coach, C-Dub, and they don't have an associate head coach as well. Not only the head coach got fired, the associate head coach got fired. They have 2 assistant coaches left. And so where is the LSU mindset entering Friday? You throw in the fact Iowa State will have a pretty good contingent there. TJ's going home. Hunter's going home. The Midwest representation. And LSU is a lot like teams Iowa State has played before, which is good and bad. Not sure, how you want to look at it. It's a very athletic team, a team that turns people over, a lot of steals, but not a great skill team from shooting the basketball. So, I was talking to a friend of mine or a contact of mine who is in the scouting department in the NBA, and he said they're a more talented Memphis, essentially, in that very talented, upside's good, but you don't know how hard they want to play, what the work ethic's going to be. And you saw, Chris, you were in Brooklyn when Iowa State played Memphis, and really Iowa State just outworked them, right? And just, possession by possession, just ground them down. And I think that's the opportunity for Iowa State is can they outwork these guys? Because talent-wise, LSU is the more talented team. There's no question. But you wonder what the commitment level is entering the day.
Iowa State will be facing a long team, what you mentioned, not incredibly skilled. They were ranked 304th nationally in turnover percentage on offense. However, Bloom, I believe, 6th in adjusted defense with Ken Palm. Here's the one part. Here's the deal. The metrics of this team, I'm not crazy about the draw because this isn't a team that Iowa State can just bulldoze, which is what I was hoping for. However, it's their coach literally got fired yesterday.
Correct.
A guy named Kevin Nickelberry will be leading LSU, and you're right. It's I know for a fact that Iowa State's players and coaches love one another and will play for each other. We just really don't know how LSU shows up. The schematic draw here is that this team's profile, Brent, looks a lot like Iowa State's.
Very similar, and some similar opponents as well. So if you look at who has LSU played, lost at TCU by 10, okay, and then beat Missouri by 20 in the regular season, and then beat them by 8 in the conference tournament, a game that was close late. And Iowa State, beat Missouri by 25 at Hilton Coliseum, split with TCU. And so this team is a lot like what Iowa State has seen. And you see Pinson there is actually just shooting the ball. He's a Missouri transfer, played against Iowa State as a freshman when Iowa State beat them in Horton Tucker and Halliburton's freshman year. But really, it's a team made of transfers, and Darius Days and Easton are their best players. So Easton's a transfer from Cincinnati. Days has been there 4 years. Both guys probably NBA. Here's Easton right here. Super skilled, big, comes in off the bench actually, but he's their best player who plays starter minutes. And again, it's an SEC team like this. Similar to football. They're going to have great athletes. They're going to be able to get up into Iowa State, and it's going to be a low-scoring game most likely. But can Iowa State do enough and outwork them The intangibles are all in Iowa State's favor, though, in this game. I mean, you just have to look at it that Iowa State's got to be in a better place mentally. But then again, I mean, I don't want to bring up ghosts of Cyclone past here, but Iowa State against interim coaches, at least on the football side, has not been great. And so you just don't know. I mean, LSU, of all the teams in this tournament, is the biggest wild card. And so nothing really surprises you. But if you're going to give me a 6 seed from that list, please give me the one that has no head coach and you get to see him in Milwaukee. I think it's a great opportunity for Iowa State. Plus, one game at a time here, right? But then you would play potentially a Wisconsin team as the 3 seed. And, clearly Wisconsin is a very talented, very good team, well coached, but Nebraska beat them. So we'll leave it at that.
I want to thank our sponsors, our presenting sponsors, for all of our March coverage here on CycloneFanatic.com with the men, Fairway Meat and Grocery, Wild Rose Casino and Jefferson, Ames Eye Care, Des Moines Eye Care, Country Landscapes, and, of course, our friends at the Iowa Event Center. We'll be telling you about all those great sponsors throughout the month of March. You mentioned Eason, did a little now I'm getting into your world. Really, he is a fringe first-round pick, according to some people. His profile, I mean, a little bit of a longer, younger Isaiah Brockington, right? I mean, 6.9, 6.7, but I mean, very much like in that same category. He's not going to light you up from deep. He's obviously a lot longer.
Yeah, I mean, he's 6'8", 220 pounds. And again, he comes off the bench, which is interesting. Now he plays 30 minutes a game, so it's kind of a weird deal for him.
Maybe he won't with the new coach.
Yeah, I mean, that's one change. But they're not super deep. I think they play 8 or 9, so it's not like they're going to run a bunch of bodies like Tech did. I mean, by the way, that game Thursday night, Tech was unbelievable. And I mean, this is the thing. If you can do a game like that, I mean, LSU is not, I don't think, as talented as Tech, or at least doesn't have the want to of Tech, but similar profile players, right? And so that's the concern. If LSU is able to get into Iowa State and turn them over like crazy, it's going to be a long night in Milwaukee. And that's the fear for this game because they lead the nation in steals. Eason comes into the game. Again, he only plays 25 minutes a game. Super productive when he's in there. And he gets 2 steals per game, which is crazy at that amount of minutes he plays. One of the best in the country. So, again, they're going to get after Iowa State. Tyrese Hunter's the key to this game. And then Iowa State backcourt, can they handle the pressure? It's not an LSU team that's going to have a McCormick that they just throw the ball into and kill you inside. But what they're really good is if they turn Iowa State over, get live ball turnovers, turn into points, it could be a long night, and that's what happened to Iowa State Thursday night. So that's the bad news. The good news is I don't think they have the want to or the work ethic that a Tech does. What makes Tech so good, and Oklahoma State is in that same realm, Baylor as well, is they're just nonstop for 40 minutes. And the story with LSU is they have stretches where they just completely lose focus and collapse, and you just don't know where the mindset's going to be.
All right. Before Billy Finley is going to join us here, we're going to talk about the women's draw, and then we'll spend the last 40 minutes or so on the men's. We do have some video today that Matt Van Winkle has for us. Maddie, let's go ahead. Let's see what the Cyclones looked like when they heard their name up there, Nate. Pretty sure that TJ grabbed the freshman point guard and said, Milwaukee!
Coming home.
That's pretty awesome. I will say this, that a group of our friends, and I know that TJ at least is going to have a big entourage of friends and family there in Milwaukee. And you know that Tyrese, a young man who's been through so much in his life, what a thrill his freshman year to play the NCAA tournament in Milwaukee. Yeah,
really cool. So Racine's half hour south of Milwaukee. I mean, it's right there. So homecoming of sorts for both those guys. What TJ said tonight, that he hasn't been home since pre-COVID, and obviously went to high school there on the south side. So awesome for them. I don't think it's much of a distraction. I don't think that's a problem. TJ said he has to turn his phone off for ticket requests, which I understand, but that's a neat little storyline. And then, a couple Wisconsin guys going home, and then Wisconsin's on the other side. I mean, it's going to be, if Iowa State is able to win a game, then Iowa State will have the decided home court advantage from a crowd standpoint in the first game. The next game would be different when you play Wisconsin. But, I mean, if Iowa State could at least get there, that'd be a success in and of itself.
No doubt. Let's hear. I believe we have some stuff from Isaiah Brockington as well.
Yeah, we got Coach Otzelberger, Brockington, and Condit here.
Perfect.
All right.
I would say this, like today we're 13-0 against teams that aren't in the Big 12, so our guys should have a tremendous level of confidence. This is a new season, and we're playing not far from here. We should have some great fan support and a lot of guys with a local connection, so great opportunity in front of us.
That was really the goal of me coming here. I felt like, obviously, getting wins was important, but it wasn't just getting wins. Like the prominence that I felt like we could bring this program back to was making the tournament and, just being one of the 68 teams that's selected, man, because, I mean, it's really special to even, be there. But, once you get there, anything could happen. So, that's really what I saw when I came here. I really wanted to really do that. It's huge.
It's a new season. It's March, man. It's NCAA tournament. Anything can happen. You're looking at the brackets and how our teams are filling out and stuff is happening. You see this team can really beat this team and this team can. But that's the same way you got to think. Like every team you go against, you got to believe you can beat them as well. Because why not?
It is somewhat surreal, like when you watch that video, Bloom, like a year ago.
Yeah.
To think that we would all be having a show like this right now.
What, TJ got hired, the 16th of March?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're coming right up on the year. Yeah.
So, I mean, wild. I mean, I think Prohm was let go about a year ago today. I mean, it's so to think of where we have, what the season has been like and the roller coaster it's been. I think seeing Condit there, all those guys, guys that took a gamble to stay, to ride it out, or to choose Iowa State. Why would you choose Iowa State? And for Brockington, Kalsher, and Condit, and all those guys to have the buy-in they have. And I think just for all of us, when you think about it, the last time Iowa State was in the NCAA tournament, it was on the other end of that 6-11 game. Iowa State was the 6, lost to Ohio State that was an 11. The last time Iowa State won an NCAA tournament game was in Milwaukee, different arena. That was the Bradley Center. This is the Fiserv Forum. This is the new Bucks Arena that Iowa State's playing in. But kind of a lot of things that connect the dots to make Friday night's going to be really cool because it's the best time of the year. I think for Iowa State, this is where it should be in the NCAA tournament. But for those guys to get here so quickly, it's nothing but a success.
Let's move on to the women's game, shall we? And bring in our buddy and Iowa State women's assistant coach, Billy Fennelly.
He's working already.
He is working. Yeah, I can see he's at the office, and I know that he's got a meeting he's got to get to. So we moved him up a little bit because we didn't want to make the old man. We didn't want to make the old man upset with us, keeping him out of the staff meeting. Congratulations, Coach! 3 seed. That's always it's always a special night. You knew your name was going to get called, but you never take it for granted.
Yeah, no doubt. Honestly, one of those years that I didn't really pay too much attention to all the bracketology stuff. Which was nice. You're usually more worried if you're close to the bubble or anything like that. But we pretty much obviously knew we were going to be in. We knew we were going to host regardless of what went down. I think a lot of people made a big deal about 2 or 3. That was really the only debate for us. I guess it looks like the committee said that we were the best 3 seed. They made somebody else the worst 2 seed, and it is what it is. But it doesn't matter. I think honestly, what in my opinion, there's only 4 women's basketball hosts that are going to host a first 4 event. They know damn well that they want people in Ames, Iowa. So that's why we were a 3 seed. None of the 1s or 2s could host a first 4. So it's only the 3s and 4s because of the way the seeding works out. You got to be an 11 or a 12.
Interesting.
And honestly, I feel like, and they have that right in the women's game. They know that they're going to sell tickets to a game on Wednesday that does not involve anybody here, and which is great. It should be fun for our fans. They should go. They should go support, and it'll be nice to have something to do on Wednesday.
And Billy, ultimately, once you get, if you get to the regional, it doesn't matter because it could have been flip-flopped the other way. Just put that out there.
Yeah.
But what do you know about UT Arlington? Obviously, a team out of, I'm sure many Cyclone fans don't know anything about, but won its conference tournament as a 2 seed.
Yeah, honestly, just starting to dig into it. Got a buddy who played him in the non-conference, and just spoke with him on the way from Hilton over to the office, and he's similar to some athletic teams that we see in our league. They have the ability to switch all 5 positions. They're long, they're athletic. Maybe not a dead-eye shooting team on paper, but we've seen that go the other way too. So,
Sure.
The good thing is, at least looking at it right away, I don't know that anybody's going to be able to try to play defense like Texas. So our next game, we should feel a little bit looser in that regard. But again, obviously, team that's won 20 games. Their head coach, Sharika Wright, is very popular, very up and coming. Spent time as an assistant in the Big 12. So she's been around. She understands it. And I think it's going to be a team that will pose some challenges for us. But obviously, I don't think the one thing about playing in the Big 12 is that we've seen every style. If you've seen Texas and you've seen Oklahoma in our game, and then you've seen everything in between, that's the good thing about running into March, where I think some other leagues maybe haven't had the chance to face every single possible type of opponent, where I feel really confident that we have.
I'm just going to ask it. The committee puts Iowa and you in a shot to play in the Sweet 16. What do you think of that?
Obviously we hope that we get the opportunity to go and play in that game, and I'm sure they're saying the same thing. I'm going to take the high road, Chris, on this deal, but
I had to ask.
I think for us, we had the opportunity to host here a few years ago and played really well in our first game, and then went cold against a Missouri State team who at the time was an 11 seed, whatever, and then they made a run and almost had the next game won, and then their coach went to Tennessee. So I think that's the one positive about our women's game, that it's come so far that you're going to see some upsets in this deal. And I think where a few years ago you could just go chalk across the board and say, oh, we set this up so that she can play her and they can play them and whatever. And, if you're buying into that, which obviously that we're not going to, you're going to stumble and not even get to that game. And if you're focused and you are what you are, somebody else may stumble and not get to that point either. So, obviously it's unique. Everyone's going to talk about it. We got 2 really good teams in this state. We got some really good players in this state. And if we get the chance to meet up again, we'll both be happy because we'll both be in the Sweet 16.
Billy, 2 things for you. Do you know timing yet for Friday? I mean, it's unfortunate that there could be a crossover there with the men's game in Milwaukee. Have you guys heard that, or is there any way they can try and split those up somehow?
I have not heard yet. I know literally Carp gets on phone calls immediately. And I mean, he didn't even know, because I always give somebody a hard time. I'm like, somebody knows something, something gets I mean, he didn't even know that we were a host for the first 4, and that game's Wednesday. So
wow.
They really kept this thing tight-lipped, which I think after a couple of years ago when the whole thing leaked, I think they've probably gone completely the other way, which is fine, which makes it fun. But I don't know right now. I think we have set the record for overlapping times in a season.
No doubt.
So it won't be a surprise, and I know our fans will be upset about it. But, it is what it is. That's the beauty of having 2 really good basketball programs.
100%, absolutely. So I'm curious, where is the Big 12 for some women's basketball fans who haven't watched a lot of women's basketball this year? Where does the Big 12 compare relative to the other conferences this year? Obviously, the other side, in that 6-11 game, who you may see, again, you got to win the first one. Georgia out of the SEC's there, along with that play-in game at the 11. But I assume the Big 12 is well thought of this year as well.
Yeah, I think, honestly, it went back and forth all year between us and the SEC in terms of conference RPI, within, decimal points of each other all year, back and forth. And both of us were separated from the 3rd place conference. So I mean, you got 6 teams in. West Virginia was our 7th team. They're going to be in the NIT, and I don't think anybody would really sign up to play them on any given Sunday. So our league was brutal all year. We play everybody twice. You know, you're looking at a league like a Big Ten that had 4 or 5 teams finish with 4 losses, but 3 of those teams only played 12 or 13 games, so they didn't get to call themselves co-champs, where 2 people did play all their games. And even at that, when you play all your games in a league like that, we're the only league that plays everybody twice. Even when you are playing everybody, you know, on a given year, you're getting lucky and playing, you know, the bottom teams twice, or or somebody's getting unlucky and playing the top teams twice. So for us, it's, as you guys know, it's a grind, but this is what it prepares us for. I love the fact that we're rolling straight into it. All these other Power 5 leagues have been sitting around going recruiting for a week and telling their players to hopefully be ready. You know, I'm sure that could work to their advantage in some sort of rest, but we don't play till Friday. So our girls will be more than rested, ready to rock. And I like how we're, you know, we lost yesterday. We came home. We saw our name today. And we'll start preparing tomorrow, and we'll get after it for a couple of days and then roll the ball out.
You had 2 super physical games in a row in Kansas City. Is everybody healthy?
Yeah, everybody is.
Good.
So it's
Good.
yeah, no doubt about that. Couple bumps and bruises, and there's some video evidence of some.
I was gonna say Darnowski got like Undertaker choke slammed down there on the block. I just wanted to make sure she was okay.
You know, it seemed like incidental contact, right, Brent?
Not reviewable though, right? We're not going to go to the monitor for that one, Billy. No,
hey.
but what do you take from that? Because clearly, I mean, I thought you guys showed it was a loss, but you answered a lot of questions, in my opinion. Of, you know, is this team, can it do it again? And look at Texas. You know, took it to Baylor for most of the game today and won the game. But did you answer some questions you had maybe with this group of this team is tough? They can handle things, and obviously the end result wasn't. But I think you have to be encouraged with how that game went yesterday.
Yeah, I think we were. We definitely were. And you know, even at that, it takes one of their kids who's shooting 21% from the 3 to go 5 for 8. She did it. I mean, to her credit, the kid was she was unbelievable, and she was great again today, and she was the MVP of the tournament. But you know, those things happen, but we go toe to toe with a team that, quite honestly, dominated us for, you know, twice this season. And that was really our Achilles heel was, you know, we obviously swept 7 teams in this league fairly handily with the exception of one game at Kansas State. And then we got swept fairly handily by 2 teams, and it was all the physicality, and it was what we wanted to see, what we needed to see. And truly, if we got to pick a first-round opponent, West Virginia was a good one for us in a sense where similar in their style of play, not quite as talented and as deep as Texas right now. But then it set us up for that. And like I said, I think obviously there's a couple plays we'd love to have back and things like that. But we also had a lot of really good things go our way, and we didn't hang our heads for 1 second. The atmosphere was unbelievable, and we'll be really excited to bring that back and to know that I don't think there's a team in this tournament that can play defense like Texas. So I feel very strongly, our kids feel very strongly that we've seen it all from that regard, and we feel confident in whatever we see going forward.
Well, I just want to endorse the NCAA tournament in Ames. It's one of my favorite events. I've been to it a couple of times, and when they roll up the bleachers and like it's like it seems darker in there because it's got the NCAA stuff. It's just a really special thing. So I would encourage anybody out there, bring the kids and get out to Hilton Coliseum. Even Wednesday, that's a great point, Billy, that I hadn't thought about. I knew that they had the luxury to move teams around a couple of seeds, but that's a real compliment to Iowa State fans that they wanted to put that first 4 game in Ames because they know that people will actually support it. And that's
brand new. That's brand new this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I'd love to see the first 4 go to a thing like on the men's side where they go to Dayton. That thing should be played at Wells Fargo every year, you know, honestly. And I think we, you know, this is the first year for it. We'll see how it goes. I understand logistically it makes more sense to bring both those teams here. Obviously, one of them wins and stays. Yeah. One of them loses and goes home. I get that. It makes sense on travel. But clearly, you know, if there's one thing, they chose to not have the game on the eastern side of the state. They chose to have the game right here, and I think that's a lot to be said for our fan base.
All right, brother. Please give the staff and the ladies our best, and we'll be rooting you on. All right, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Pal.
See you in Hilton.
Billy Fennelly, the great Iowa State assistant women's coach, doesn't hold much back like his old man. I tried to bait him, but he wasn't going to go there. I hate the fact that listen, like, I actually think matchup wise, I mean, Caitlin Clark might be the best player in the country, but like matchup wise, it's not terrible for Iowa State in the Sweet 16. Like that, I'd rather have that than some team that's going to try and, rough them up. I just don't like it. I'm a huge women's basketball fan, and we have two really good teams, and like it just sucks that they have to go through one another to advance, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and and it's also unfortunate potentially there's that crossover on Friday. Which is just like every single time this year. It's just like, what are we doing? But
I bet it will be too. Like they'll probably put the Iowa State women in prime. I don't know that, but I'm just guessing.
Well, and I mean, there's only so many times, especially
they're not going to give you a home game and then put you at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday.
No, they will not. I don't think they will, at least. I mean, I was thinking probably Lobby, but as far as the NCAA is concerned, if Iowa State men and women are playing at crossover times, that is super low down the list of priorities here. So it probably won't even get recognized. And the fact that men play at 6:20, maybe the women could play at 8 or 8:30, which I think would be a possibility. So you could potentially, watch one and then at one of our favorite sports bars or at home and get up to Ames. But, I encourage everybody. Iowa State's reputation was built a lot of times on when it first hosted the NCAA tournament. I want to say like 97, 98 for the women, got like 10, 11,000 people. That was one of the first times I went to a women's basketball game. It was awesome. It was like I was hooked. But I think if you can get there, support this program, it's huge because that's the home court advantage, literally. And Iowa State hasn't made a Sweet 16 in a couple of years now. And so even if they could get to meet Iowa, I think that'd be great just to get there. Because they had that disappointing. We called the game on the radio against Missouri State. What was that?
That was
3 years ago.
That was when the men were in Tulsa.
Yep. So I think again, Friday would be great, but at the very least, if Iowa State plays, I think it's Georgia or I forget the other two, Dayton and DePaul on the women's side. Get there on Sunday. That for sure. Hopefully, wouldn't be a crossover, but we'll see.
All right, let's get back to the men's game here. First of all, I really want to give a shout out to our friends at J Corp Design and Build. They have stepped up to the plate and sponsored our women's basketball postseason coverage. Really classy move on their part. We threw it out there that we wanted to be able to cover the women the exact same way that we do the men and follow with them on the road and provide coverage to our tens of thousands of viewers and readers here at Cyclone Fanatic. And J Corp Design and Build stepped up to the plate because they wanted to see that happen. So we thank them. Check out their website. They're phenomenal people there. And that's a big deal to me as the site's publisher that we can be covering the women just like we do the men. So shout out to them. We do have a point spread for Iowa State LSU. LSU is a 5.5 point favorite. If you're looking for a little value, I think Ken Palm had LSU by 3. So they are, I guess undervaluing Iowa State as far as the metrics go. Vegas is probably looking at a team that just lost by 30, right? They've been blown out a couple of times here and struggling offensively. So that's what's going on there. Let's talk about it with the guy who knows something about offense. He is one of the great 3-point shooters in the history of Iowa State University, Scotty Christopherson. What's up, you little pencil neck? How you doing, brother?
Chris, I was skeptical about getting on Twitter, and you talked me into it. And after the last 3.5, 4 hours, I got to say it was totally worth it, man.
So I was telling these guys the story because you're a phenomenon on Twitter, and it was after Iowa State beat Xavier in New Jersey, and you and I were sitting at the hotel bar, and we were watching the game. We were watching Memphis and Virginia Tech, I think. And I was like, man, we built your Twitter feed that night, and you've become a Twitter legend. So congratulate. Now you're just like, you're all over the place.
He's mixing up with Hawks left and right.
Yeah. So the
questioning
backstory
officials.
there,
It's
if
great.
people don't know it,
Yeah.
Scott made some tweet, and some angry Iowa fan called him a pencil neck who'd never played the game before, and it was hilarious.
When I made the tweet, I just thought, Iowa State fans would have fun with this. I had no idea how many Iowa fans would see it, and then just like the things people will say.
Yeah.
Like you can just tell it's like, what is the meanest thing I can think of in the next 10 seconds? It's leaving my fingers and bam. And you just have to, rule number 1 of Twitter, right? Like don't take anything personal. So I thought it was a lot of fun, quite honestly. I had a blast with it, and my wife was laughing so hard when I showed her that one.
Oh man. Well done, Matt Van Winkle, to get that.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, of all the highlights of this basketball season, Christopherson on Twitter is definitely a 1 seed. I'll put it that way. So well done, Scotty. Hey, I've been mixing up with the Hawks for going on 13 years now. So I've got a few pointers if we want to talk sometime.
I need your pointers on tweeting at the Hawks, and I need to get my tie knot game to Brent Blum level. That's like the 2 things every offseason as a player you go into it. 2 things you got to get better: my interaction with the Hawk fans and my tie knots. So there they are.
We can discuss.
All right, Scotty. First of all, they're coming to your neck of the woods. That's awesome. You'll probably get to go.
It is. I don't know if I'll be able to go. I thought I saw there a 6:20 game time,
Friday,
which might make that very challenging for me. I don't know that we're ready to do an overnight.
Well, I'm gonna go and stay with Southside Miguelito on
which it's like, dude, this is just torture. Not being able to go to KC, and now you're staying with Clint, and I can't be there. Like,
we're a little inside joke here, but we had a good time with this guy with a friend of ours in New York, and I'm going to go stay with him before the tournament. I invited Scott. I don't think he can because he's got parental problems.
But what's the drive from La Crosse to Milwaukee?
3 hours.
Okay.
So I'm going to continue to think about it, and if I can devise a way to make it happen, I will. But I would say, based off of that time slot, doubtful.
All right. Well, nonetheless, it is cool. We think that the TJ connection, obviously, and then Tyrese.
This is the best case scenario for Iowa State, in my opinion.
All right. What do you think of the draw then? LSU and then potentially a game against your Badgers.
They're not my Badgers. I draw the line there. I love this. I love this seeding. I wanted an 11 seed. Here's why. I think they now have they have to play a lot better, right? Like the first things first, we have to get back to the ball they were playing the 4 games prior to these last 3 games. They're not going to beat a team in the tournament if that doesn't happen. I'm assuming they've been able to go back home, collect themselves, get in the gym this week, get their mojo back going. If this team can play the way they did in that 4-game stretch of conference play, a breath of fresh air outside of the Big 12, right? This is your best chance to win a 4-team tournament. And I actually said on the podcast with Jared the other week, I think it was, like Wisconsin was a team that I thought they would match up really well with if they were fortunate enough. Like I thought it would maybe be a 7-10-2, but a 3-6-11. LSU, I'll tell you what scares me about them. Our ability to create quality shots and our ability to rebound the basketball. That's been a problem. And I don't know a ton about this team, but from what I've seen of them this year, very athletic. They kind of have a Big 12 flavor to them, right? Like athletic, going to beat you up on the glass, defend like crazy, not an offensive juggernaut. I think if Iowa State can hold its own on the glass, and they've got to find ways to create quality offensive looks. When they were playing against West Virginia this year, and we were struggling a little bit against them in the game, I had no concerns about the game because as the game wore on, it was very obvious that they were able to create quality shots on offense. And so you knew, all right, just make a couple, the crowd will get into it and it'll get going. You turn around against like Oklahoma State, and at halftime, I kind of felt myself not feeling that great because it's like, man, I just feel like no matter what we do, every shot we make is like a tough, contested shot, and everything else is a turnover or, a step back. So I think you watch this game, the first 10 minutes, you'll have a pretty good idea. Offensively, can they create quality possessions? If they can, I think they've got a very good chance to win this game. A 50-50. This is an even game if they can do that, in my opinion. And then if you were fortunate to get matched up against Wisconsin in the second round, I mean, Johnny Davis is a National Player of the Year front runner, top 5, top 10 pick. But you take him out of the equation, and I don't know that Wisconsin makes the tournament. So to play a 3 seed like that in the second round, where if Isaiah and Gabe can do a number on him and turn him into a volume shooter, yeah, you're playing in front of a, probably heavy Wisconsin crowd, but I think that's probably as good of a second round matchup as you could ask for if you're Iowa State with the way the season finished.
Yeah, Scott, I think it'll be super interesting, and I'm glad Iowa State plays Friday evening. We can kind of get a good read on this. Is conference to conference, what do we got here? Because, I watched a lot of conference tournament basketball, and one from like the Big Ten this year was almost anti-Big Ten. It felt more like the Pac-12, and then that was a little more passive than usual. Whereas the Big 12 has been ultra physical. I think the SEC somewhere in between. One, it has to do with officiating, but two, it's just the nature of these teams. And sure, if you look at LSU's metrics, they're right there as a Big 12 caliber defensive team. But I don't know what to think, because if you look at some of their non-conference stuff, they weren't as good. And so I think the conference to conference will tell us a lot in this tournament of, is Iowa State a victim of the meat grinder of the Big 12, or is Iowa State really this poor offensively? And I think that will determine how the Cyclones do on Friday.
And I think off the cuff, if I were to guess, I think some of both of those things are true. But if I remember correctly, didn't TCU play LSU?
And won by 10, and scored 75 in that game.
Yeah, that's a common opponent. I mean, I've been kind of saying this for weeks. I can't wait to watch this team play against somebody not in the Big 12, where we don't have Big 12 officiating. And again, I'm not trying to make this all about the refs. I mean, there's just been some stinkers of games for Iowa State offensively. That has nothing to do with officiating. But the culture of this league this year was just, it was terrible for this team. This team struggles to create quality offensive possessions. And now you've got a bunch of really good teams, a bunch of coaches that are essentially going to say, refs, call 50 fouls on us if you want to. We're not changing. It's a really tough draw for them. I think that Iowa State, had they played in a different conference, we would be feeling a little bit different about this team than we currently do. Yep. And I think, to Brent's point, we're going to find out a lot about where they stand offensively in this game. Was it 75% of it the league and the officiating, and 25% of it are offensive limitations, or was it 75% we're just not a great offensive team? 25% of it was this what you I get you I lost my
grinder. Totally.
So what I think based off of what we saw in the non-conference, that Iowa State is a little bit better offensively against teams outside of the Big 12, in that they can turn you over. They were finding ways to get out in transition, and they were doing enough in the half court to get to 70 points. I hope that that's what we see when we come out on Friday night. And to be honest, my gut tells me that's what I think we're going to see. And I can't tell you enough. I am really excited about this draw. I wanted an 11 seed. I think this is the best case scenario for them to have a decent chance to think about winning a 4-team tournament.
So the biggest story here is LSU currently doesn't have a coach.
That's another factor, right?
And the associate head coach. So I guess one of my things, Scott, watching Iowa State throughout the Big 12, and it was a reason why I also said I didn't think this team could do much of anything in the Big 12 tournament, is because they've been scouted so well and they're so limited. Yes. I mean, I kind of use the example, it's like an orange, and I feel like every ounce of juice has been squeezed out of that orange by the end of the year in the Big 12. I do like the fact that, I mean, I don't know anything about what's his name, Kevin Nickelberry, who's going to be LSU's coach.
I do know one thing.
What?
This is going to be painful for everybody. He used to be the head coach at Hampton, but not. Hold on, everybody.
I actually know this. That's a 2-15 upset loss for Iowa State, is it not? Back in 2001.
Yes. However, everybody, just to be clear, he was the head coach from 2006 to 2009. He was not involved with the game that should be not me mentioned again, and I apologize.
So my point.
He's been a head coach before, though. Yeah, he's been a head coach before.
I just Scott, put into words for you're a player and you know how the scout gets thrown together for an NCAA tournament team. You've been a part of this. how does not having your head coach and your associate head coach? I mean, I figure, like, for real, like, I think that Iowa State has been scouted really well. Take Brockington's left hand away. Don't let him in the right. Like, they don't. There's only so many tricks in Iowa State's offensive bag.
Right.
How is that? To me, feels like because I'm with you. In fact, I don't like the head-to-head matchup here because this seems like I wanted a team Iowa State could push around.
Like a Big Ten team would have been great. And because to Brent's point about the kind of the way the leagues played out, I thought I was hoping they would get a Big Ten
I wanted
team.
like the San Francisco or Davidson, one of those mid-majors that I thought you could just beat up on. You can't do that to LSU. However, their coaching, and then this is where I need some insight from you, my man, is like how much of those players going to be bought into this, right? Like that's the question for me with this LSU team, not what they physically can do.
Well, it'll definitely be a factor. I mean, I don't really have anything to compare to that as far as, you know, playing on a team and in season a coach is fired or anything like that, but it's certainly going to be a huge distraction. And my understanding is that this is over recruiting violations, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
I
a
would
bad
say
deal.
the thing that to me comes to mind that as a player would be even more of a factor is, are there players on this team that these recruiting violations are tied to? Because if that's the case and you're a player, that can be a pretty big impact as far as just your peace of mind and your clarity going into the game. Again, I'm totally speculating. I have no idea what details have and haven't been released. I think they've played enough games. They'll have an assistant coach come in. He'll have a game plan. It'll be a little bit different. I would think you can probably kind of galvanize around this moment and try to make this us versus the world, like let's overcome this type of thing. But if there's players on this team that some of those recruiting violations are potentially tied to and being investigated upon, again, those are the sorts of things that, like, okay, now that's in the back of my mind as I'm entering this game, and you might not be as mentally into it as you can. And again, I can't reiterate enough. I'm just speculating. I have no idea, but I don't know if you guys have heard any more details on that or not.
So it's all based on the FBI stuff all the way like 5 years ago. Okay. So generally these guys that are on the team now are not involved, and they've been dealing with Will Wade and is he going to be fired or is he not since that came out, and it was the fall of 17, guys. Like it's finally. Do you remember Bruce Weber went on the rant Wednesday night, whenever that was? Similar deal. It's just Kansas has stayed at least away from it for now. LSU finally got caught. It's from 5 years ago. So, you know, if you look at the current players, probably not. But, you know, Will Wade, who knows if he committed any other violations in the meantime.
Right. It's definitely a distraction and will be – I mean, it's in Iowa State's favor.
It's a story.
Let's put it
absolutely.
that way.
Absolutely.
I would say as a player, you know, again, these are such rare moments. Like, I don't want to say who the coach is doesn't matter. But, like, if your team's together and your guys are on the court together, you're going to be given a game plan. Like, they're going to come out ready to play, in my opinion. I would be shocked if this was just a moment where the team just collapsed and came out and basically just did a no-show on Friday night. Because, I mean, just being honest with you, these opportunities are so rare for players. Yeah. These guys have worked so hard on this. I think they'll find a way to galvanize and be locked in if it's just the case that these are violations from 5 years ago. But as far as the sharpness of the game plan and those sorts of things, the command of the team, like, of course that will be a challenge and a stress point for them.
All right, Scott, you and Jared podcasting tomorrow, I believe. We'll have an opportunity to hear more of your thoughts.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Awesome. You love the draw. That's good. That's what I like to hear. I can't reiterate enough. I don't like the physical lineup that LSU will impose against Iowa State, but intangibly, I just don't know if you could get anything better. They don't they fired their coach yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, this is literally never happened.
That's never
happened.
No.
Like, so I guess I'll take it.
Scott, what is it like though? Because this is something clearly Chris and I will never get experience. You were on that Iowa State team in 2012 that broke the 6-year drought of not making the NCAA tournament. What is that like? One, your name is called, but two, here we go. You're gonna walk on the floor with your brothers and go beat a UConn, and then have a game with a Kentucky. Clearly.
Yeah, no, I mean it's I remember it so vividly, you know, as 10 years ago. It's crazy that it's already
Yeah.
been 10 years. In some ways, you know, you look back and it seems like it was 20 years ago. Those particular memories seem like they were last month almost. I mean, it's just such a special time. And these next couple of days of practices and preparation are so much fun. I just remember being so locked in. And, you know, Connecticut had a lot of talent that year, but they really never gelled. And when a draw came out, I kind of sensed on our team that, you know, like, wow, UConn defending national champs.
Yeah.
You know, they had 3 or 4 guys. I think they had, what they have, Lamb,
Andre Drummond.
Napier, and who was the
Drummond.
big guy?
Andre Drummond. Yep.
So they had 3 guys that were, you know, definitely on NBA radars and whatnot. And I watched them on film and I'm like, yeah, they're good. But I watched them and I'm like, we can beat this team. Like, they don't play together. And I just felt super confident going into it and kind of just talked to the team before we practiced that week and just said, like, hey, you know, if we lock in and just kind of do what we need to do, we're going to be just fine. And fortunately we were able to. Royce had a, you know, great performance in that game to kind of lead the way on the court. And, you know, we got beat by a better Kentucky team that year, but it's super special memory. And I hope that these guys are able to take these 3 games, put them behind them, kind of come into this with a blank slate and just say it's a new season. Forget about the last 3 games. Let's get back to the things that got us here. And I think if they do that, as much as this isn't a great matchup for them, I think they'll be okay. I really do.
You know what stands out to me about
watch this opening possession by Royce, though.
Ooh.
That was the first play.
Yeah.
That set the tone.
Yeah. God, your guys' shorts were so much baggier back then.
Oh my gosh, it's hard to even look at, to be quite honest. I mean,
it's so baggy.
Yeah, no, they really are. I mean, you look like you're swimming in them. I was, for that matter.
Because now, like, the guys are like, they're pulling them up. They want like their thighs out there, you know? Like, it's.
I know.
That's
a surefire sign you kind of have gotten old quick. The style has completely changed from when you played.
Yeah, man. That was like when Matt pulled up the first video from the Kentucky game. I'm like, my God, like those Cardinal shorts are like they're like baggy dresses on you guys out there. Oh, there he goes.
There we go.
Fade away.
The crazy thing is, I would roll them up twice. So I would have 2 rolls in my shorts just to get them to where they are. And obviously you see them, they look pretty baggy on me yet.
You're always looking good, my man. You're always looking good. All right. We'll have plenty of analysis from you the rest of the week, brother. We look forward to it.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
And I will
talk to you.
Call you tomorrow with my Wisconsin game. Where's the New Glarus Brewery?
That could be on your way. If you stopped up here, you could probably make it on your way regardless, but that's just south of Madison.
Because I feel like I need to stop and check that place out.
New Glarus, yeah.
Hey, C-Dub, the New Glarus Brewery is in New Glarus.
Yep, New Glarus, Wisconsin.
Why do you have to be a jerk? The last time we were in Milwaukee for a tournament, I did an ultimate power move. It was at the end of the night. I was having a hard time with the bartender. She was being kind of rude. We weren't getting drinks very well. So I ordered 20 spotted cows at once. And I'll be damned, she brought them all. And we were struggling to get these things done. But it was just a straight power move. And it was just to get a good laugh from everybody there. And
a Welch Ave memory of mine. Wednesday nights, Mickey's, Dollar, Captain, and Cokes. I'd go with my buddies. We'd order 40 of them and just wouldn't leave until they were gone, and then venture on somewhere and act like a bunch of mindless idiots. Yeah, no, I get the power move, man. It's not a bad play.
Well, you're talking about when you're in college. This was just a few years
30.
ago.
Yeah, Chris is in the 30. Yeah.
I mean, I had a daughter at this point, so.
True.
All right, brother. Love you, man. Thank you so much.
Hey,
we love having you on our team, and I'm hoping to come and see your boys at some point here soon. All right.
Thanks, bud. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Take care, guys.
Pal. The great Scott Christopherson. Always a good time. Did you teach him the Twitter skills?
He learned that on his own.
Oh, holy mackerel! That's good stuff. All right,
pencil neck Christopherson.
We already have a lot of people who are wanting Christopherson pencil neck T-shirts to be printed at the Cyclone Fanatic store. But speaking of the Cyclone Fanatic store, real quick, I want to pub this. I have not had time to get it on our front page yet, but I will. I did tweet out the link to our forums, and we will. we will be having a men's and women's bracket challenge. And we're giving away hundreds of dollars to the Cyclone Fanatic store for the top 5 placers in each division. You can get one bracket per each, but this is, again, you can find it on the forums right now. Hopefully, if you're listening to this via podcast on Monday, I will have more. I'll have it on the front page. I haven't had time. It's been kind of a busy day. So check that out and participate with us. Steve just asked a question here real quick before we get into Stansbury. Bloom, you were my connection here. Are the Central Distilling guys the same ones in Milwaukee? Because I was thinking about maybe putting together a little get-together there.
So my buddy that was one of the founders of that moved to Georgia. But I don't believe he's involved with Central Distilling anymore. Now, I mean, he could be a partner still, but he doesn't live there anymore.
We had a get-together there last time.
My buddy Brant, good dude.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun going there and trying their whiskey in Wisconsin, and he was super excited to have Iowa State in town. All right, good question, Steve. I was already on it, brother. Thank you for doing that. All right, let's bring in Stansbury. He's been with the team tonight. He was at the Otzelberger press conference. What's up, Jared? How goes it?
What's up, fellas? How's it going?
We've never been better. We're celebrating an NCAA tournament berth.
Great
we didn't
show.
think it was possible. So we're
good.
An
award-winning show, Stans.
Well, I was listening earlier, and I was listening to your guys' analysis of Scott's Twitter game. I don't know that I could agree anymore. I mean,
so good.
The guy went from not being on Twitter, not watching college basketball for a decade,
literally,
to breaking down seed lines in the NCAA tournament and roasting Iowa fans. So I don't know there could be a better glow up in 6 months or whatever it's been.
No, it's pretty good. How we'll get to the team here in a minute. Your initial reactions on the draw?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Scott. And I think if you're going to be an 11 seed, it's probably as good a case scenario as you're going to find. And obviously LSU is going through a lot right now, and I think that's going to be an interesting conversation as the week goes on, just because that they're going to say it's not going to make a difference or anything like that. But when you don't have 2 of the members of your staff, how does that impact your preparation for a game? And that's just what nobody knows. I mean, how rare is it for someone to be without their head coach going into the NCAA tournament? It doesn't happen very often, especially where you've played all the way through the entire season and played your conference tournament with your coach, and then you don't have a head coach anymore. Like, they don't have any preparation of how this is going to work to this point. So that's why, I just don't know. And I think if you're going to face a 6th seed and a team from the SEC that, obviously won a lot of games this year, one that's going to be in some turmoil, it's hard to be too mad about that.
And again, I feel like I'm the only pessimist here, but I do worry about Iowa State getting good looks and turning the basketball over against a long, athletic, physical type of team. Now, intangibly, I couldn't agree with you more. All the intangibles favor Iowa State here, but I mean, 6th adjusted defense, Jared, isn't exactly the draw I was hoping for.
No, and that's fair. But I will say too, I mean, I don't know what the number is going to be for this game.
It's 5.5.
5.
No, I meant
125 is what I just saw. 125.
Put the mortgage on the under. I mean, I don't know. Like I watched LSU play the other day. I think they're playing. Man, they must have been playing Arkansas.
Missouri?
Yeah, whoever it was in the.
They played Missouri and Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas in the SEC tournament, and I think there was a point when it was like 16 minutes into the game, and the 2 teams were both 4 of 17 from the field. So I think that's probably a pretty good indication of the kind of basketball game we're going to see. It's probably going to be very similar to some of the Big 12 games that we've seen so far this year. But I guess we're going to find out who plays that style better, the SEC or the Big 12,
Well, and that's the thing when I look at this, Jared, is you don't know Iowa State from game to game. So I don't know how you can look at this and really predict it, because we've literally seen Iowa State, be great, and Iowa State be horrible. Like, we've seen both ends of the spectrum this year.
We've seen it in one game, the Baylor game.
Yeah, a great example. And so for anybody to go into this and go, yeah, this is what's going to happen. Like, your guess is as good as mine, honestly. Like, I could see Iowa State winning by double digits. I could see Iowa State losing by 15. Normally, at this point, you have a pretty good read of what a team is. And for Iowa State, again, it's like we talked about with Scott, is Iowa State's offensive woes a victim of the conference, or is it a victim of Iowa State's lack of scoring ability? I don't know. It's probably somewhere in the middle, but what does that mean when you play a really good defensive team like LSU? So, again, I think everything's still on the table. I have no idea what to think about Friday night. I guess that's great analysis here on the show, but I really don't. I don't know.
Turns out the only people who were more that were similarly inconsistent to the officiating in college basketball this year was the Cyclones. So
and it goes hand in hand, honestly.
Yeah, it's all the same. But no, I mean, I think it's going to be a perfect example of these things we've talked about too. You know, with how games are going to be officiated, LSU is going to want to play the same way. You know, so it's like you're not going to be in a situation where all of a sudden, you know, you're playing someone that's you're playing Davidson, who's going to shoot a zillion 3-pointers and things like that. Like I guess you're going to ease your way into it. Wisconsin would be the same exact way if you get into a situation where you have to play them in a second round. So it's going to be fun, man. Like I said, I think, you know, if you want to look for where Iowa State was going to be realistically in this tournament, I mean, I think you got as good of an opportunity to probably make a run as you were going to find. And I don't know that I would pick it, but I'm saying I think it's more possible than it could have been in some other scenarios.
I'm with Scott, and I was saying all weekend down in Kansas City, man, I hope Iowa State can slide to the 10 line. I mean, the numbers just show year after year after year. If you're going to try, if something's going to go crazy and you're going to make a run, you're much more likely to do it as an 11 or a 10 than you are as an 8 or a 9. And Iowa State slips to the 11, and then to draw a team that doesn't have a coach, it really is a beautiful thing. Again, I don't like the physical one-on-one matchup with these guys, but overall, Bloom, as we wrap up the show, and Jared, it's an exciting time. And I think we go back to Jared, and you were with the team. I mean, I can't believe we're sitting here doing this. And even though I watched them early and I was with them and at Barclays, and like we kind of known this for a while that they would likely be in the NCAA tournament. It's a hell of an accomplishment. What was the feeling like in that press conference with those guys tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is just the general vibe where these guys are just, they feel accomplished. You know, obviously there's still work to be done, but nobody expected this. And I think even if they were going to be honest with you, even if they thought they'd be better than some people thought going into the year, I don't think any of them were coming into the season with the expectation that they're going to play in March, you know? And that's just, I thought that was kind of the vibe where everybody's just happy to be in the NCAA tournament. And I'm so excited for a guy like George Condit, who obviously played in the NCAA tournament in his freshman season and then, you know, goes 3 years. Those 3 years probably could not have gone any worse than what they did. To be able to get back there and know that, you know, potentially his career will end playing in the big dance. Like, I think that you got to feel good for someone like him. Isaiah Brockington's the same way. Isaiah Brockington last played in the NCAA tournament 4 years ago. So to be able to get back and get that opportunity again, you know, is going to be really cool. And I think that just the aspect of being able to play in Milwaukee as well, everybody's really excited about that. TJ was arguing with people about if Milwaukee's his city or if it's Tyrese's city or if it's J.R. Blunt's city. And so I'm sure that will be a constant conversation over the next several days as these guys get ready to load up and head north.
Bloom, you and I will see each other soon. We are going to do a full podcast after this. Jared, thanks for your time. We'll talk to you. Sure. Corner three coming up tomorrow, I'm sure. And Matt Van Winkle, thanks so much, man. This was awesome. You always do a great job. Way to produce it. You the man. Thanks to our sponsors, Fairway, Wild Rose Casino, Ames, Des Moines Eye Care, Country Landscapes, and the good people at Iowa Events Center. For Brent Blum, Scott Christopherson, Billy Finley, and Jared Stansberry, I'm Chris Williams. Check out all of our coverage all week long. We will be on the road, I believe, Tuesday to get to Milwaukee with the team on Wednesday. Complete coverage. We'll cover it like a blanket here at CycloneFanatic.com. Thanks for watching, guys.